Good day, and welcome to the SNN Network Summer Virtual Event. Our next presenting company is Tekcapital Plc. It is now my pleasure to turn the floor over to Dr. Clifford Gross, Executive Chairman of Tekcapital Plc. Sir, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to share with you the Tekcapital story. Tekcapital is focused on transforming university discoveries into valuable products that could save life for the customers of the portfolio companies that make and sell those products. This presentation is available on the website, so if you want to review it at a later date, just go to the Investor tab of tekcapital.com and press on Investor Presentation. And on that investor presentation, you could read the important notice and learn more about the company. Okay, so Tekcapital does two things. We build portfolio companies around university discoveries we uncover in our network, and we couple those discoveries with star power management, invest our own capital into developing those discoveries into valuable commercial products. We also provide technology transfers to more than 250 universities and research centers around the world. Over the last 3.5 years, we've had successive increases in sales, profitability, and our most important measure, which is net asset value. On Monday of this week, we announced our half-year results for 2021, and it was a record year for the company. Our net assets increased 56% to just over $51 million, which is a net asset value per share of 39 cents versus last year's per share NAV of 35 cents. Our total revenue for the first 6 months was $14.5 million. Versus $2.9 million in the previous half-year period. And that revenue comes from two sources. Revenue from services was about $715,000, and the remainder of the revenue were increases in net assets mark-to-market of our portfolio of $13.8 million. So for the $14.5 million in revenue, we had before-tax profit of $13 million. What makes Tekcapital really special in our view is that we've built a very large network from which we can cull what we view as compelling university discoveries for potential commercialization. We've electronically connected, in a sense, about 4,500 research institutions across 160 countries. And we could see in these research institutions new inventions that have been developed by the faculty members of those institutions that are available for sale or license. And what this does is it enables us to put our arms around the university idea factory sort of writ large. And what it does on a financial basis is it helps us mitigate adverse selection by enabling us to see secular technological trends across universities. From our efforts to identify and acquire technologies and then build companies around those technologies, we've built 4 portfolio companies from a clean piece of paper: Bellaskira, Solaris, Lucid, and Guidant. Our first portfolio company was Bellaskira. They're a medical device company focused on respiratory devices, and they recently have developed what we believe to be one of the most advanced portable oxygen concentrators in the world. They submitted that product to the FDA for clearance in December of 2020. They received clearance in March of 2021. Subsequent to that, they completed a successful flotation on the London Stock Exchange, the AIM market, in May of 2021. And subsequent to that, they have announced they've signed on 4 distributors for their product. They've gone into production of their portable oxygen concentrator, and their stock price has improved as well from the IPO. So Bellaskira is our first exit of our portfolio companies, and it's occurred just in the last 2.5 months. We're very proud of what they've been able to achieve, and we'll go into that company in a bit more detail in a few minutes. Solaris is our company that makes, it's a food ingredient company that makes what we believe to be the world's smallest edible salt crystals. They make sodium chloride crystals that are roughly 100 times smaller than typical table salt. And the beauty of these small crystals is that they dissolve very quickly on the tongue, which produces a large sensation of saltiness in the brain. So you need to use less salt when using this salt on topical applications like snack foods. And the goal of Solaris is to try to make a dent in cardiovascular disease by allowing customers to enjoy the salty snacks they like, but with roughly half the sodium. We own about 97% of Solaris, and we have an operating company in the U.S. called MicroCap. Lucid is our smart eyewear company. Lucid makes and sells prescription and sunglasses and ships them all over the world from Miami. But these glasses are a little bit different from your typical prescription sunglasses. They're Bluetooth enabled, microprocessor controlled, and so it enables you to take and make calls, listen to music, talk with Siri, Google Voice, or Alexa, and do many of the things you would need to have your smartphone in front of you to do without taking your smartphone out of your pocket. So Lucid is making what we believe to be the first mass market smart glasses, and we'll talk about Lucid in a few minutes, but they're achieving something that we think is quite remarkable. They've launched their first commercial product in January of 2021 to really good acclaim. It has more than 200 5-star ratings between Amazon and the Lucid.co eShop, and customers really are really enjoying the product, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And then last but certainly not least is Guidant. Guidant develops software for improving the safety and efficiency of autonomous vehicles. And Guidant is currently building their first remote monitoring and control center in Boca Raton, Florida, for monitoring autonomous vehicles, and then if necessary, taking over control of them to move them off the motorway or to call a first responder in the case of an accident. And remote monitoring and control is now the law in the state of Florida if you want to operate an autonomous vehicle. And so Guidant is building a center that's vehicle agnostic that will allow any vehicle or fleet operator to hook up their vehicles telemetrically to this center for remote monitoring and control. And we own 100% of Guidant. So now drilling down, and just to keep in mind, the value of Tekcapital is really contained by the value of the portfolio companies. And I guess in a similar manner, the growth potential of Tekcapital is inextricably interwoven into the success of the portfolio companies. So let's talk about Bellaskira for a moment. Really quite a remarkable company. They're in the medical device space, respiratory devices in particular. Their first device is a portable oxygen concentrator, which I mentioned has been FDA cleared and is in manufacturing now. This device is used by patients with COPD, of which there are more than 300 million in the world right now, and unfortunately it's a pretty quickly growing cohort. The estimated market for portable oxygen concentrators by 2026 is just over $5 billion. And this device has some remarkable features which we think makes it a potential market winner over time. The most important feature in our view is that it has modularity. And by that I mean, as a patient's need for more supplemental oxygen grows over time as their diseases progress, the customer themselves can take out the filter cartridge by pressing a button and insert a higher capacity filter cartridge to allow more liters per minute of oxygen to be supplied. And this has the ability of saving a great deal of expense over the life of the patient because they don't have to buy a bigger unit as their need for supplemental oxygen grows. Additionally, the device is very small, it's lightweight, and it's quiet, which we think is very important for quality of life for the patients that use it. And then one last point, unfortunately, because of COVID, the number of individuals around the world with respiratory problems has grown somewhat precipitously, and there is now a shortage of oxygen and oxygen concentrators. So Bellaskira is at an opportune time to make a positive impact on the need of the market by supplying these portable oxygen concentrators. Many people who recover from COVID have what's called long COVID, have some residual lung scarring which necessitates supplemental oxygen. Moving on to Lucid, and Lucid has an operating business in the U.S. called Innovative Eyewear. So Lucid, through Innovative Eyewear, makes and sells glasses under the Lucid brand, and these glasses are all Bluetooth enabled. And these are, in our view, the best smart glasses on the market today. And to make smart glasses that millions of people around the world would want to buy, you have to do three things in our view. One is they have to look good. Otherwise, people are not going to put them on their faces. Two, they have to be lightweight and comfortable. And in fact, the major proxy for comfort of glasses is weight. Typical glasses weigh about an ounce, and Lucid glasses, the current models, weigh just over an ounce. So they're comfortable enough for being worn all day, which is necessary for prescription wearers. And some of the new models coming out next month have titanium front frames, and the weight is actually at exactly 1 ounce, so they weigh the same as a regular pair of glasses. Yet they have a great deal of technology in them and batteries to allow you to use them all day long without having to recharge them. So Lucid is really, we think, a leader, or becoming a leader in the smart eyewear space, and has made the first product that really is amenable to the mass market. The other thing you have to do, in addition to making glasses look good and comfortable, is you have to make them and sell them at the same price as regular glasses. And the MSRP for the Lucid Light frames that you see here is $149. And so the customers find that to be very favorable. And Lucid has a number of brand ambassadors, more than half a dozen right now. And recently, they've onboarded Chris Clark, who's a PGA golfer, and you can hear him speaking about the glasses on the Lucid site by playing the video if you wish. But you know, he's quite an articulate spokesperson for the brand. Going on to Solaris. Solaris, Microsoft, makes MicroSalt and owns the patented process for producing these very small micron-sized salt particles. And their goal is to become a leading producer of B2B salt for snack food companies around the world. As a proof of concept, they launched their own brand of potato chips using the MicroSalt, so customers and potential B2B large customers could actually try the product. And the product has been well received. It's available on the Solaris site or on Amazon.com. And it has over 70% 5-star ratings, and they've been selling the chips in a number of different flavors, and that business is actually growing. But their hope is long-term to be onboarded by some of the leading snack food companies of the world, because MicroSalt allows snack food companies to make salty snacks that taste exactly like their current salty snacks, all the flavor, but with half of the sodium. And for some snacks, like popcorn, Solaris has been able to reduce the sodium by upwards of 70%. So we think this is a potential tremendous product for the world market. You know, the #1 cause of premature death in the world is cardiovascular disease. 17.9 million people die each year prematurely, and roughly 70% of those premature deaths can be prevented through diet, and in particular through reduction of excess sodium consumption. And MicroSalt allows people to enjoy salty foods, but with half of the sodium. In the U.S., the FDA has mentioned that the average person in the U.S. consumes about 3,400 milligrams of sodium per day. It's about just a tad over a teaspoon. And the FDA has mentioned that if that maximum consumption can go down to 2,300 milligrams a day, it would save 25,000 lives in the U.S. alone per year. So we think Solaris is on a very important mission to try to make a dent in cardiovascular disease by reducing sodium consumption in individuals that enjoy salty snacks and foods. And in addition, on the latter part of this year, they will be introducing packets of microsalt. So much as you might want to have a packet of Splenda if you wanted to reduce your caloric consumption, you can get a packet of microsalt to put on your food. And those packets should be available following the launch in supermarkets and restaurants and convenience stores. Recently, Solaris has onboarded a medical advisor, Dr. Jay Shah, who's a cardiologist at the Mayo Clinic, and he's providing medical insight, and he's a big advocate and spokesperson for the brand because he knows firsthand how important it is for his patients to reduce their sodium consumption. Further, Solaris has a very capable team. On the board is Eduardo Suchin, who is the brand manager for Pringles, which is owned by Kellogg's. It's the fourth largest snack food brand in the world. And Steve McCready, who is the former director of product development at Albertsons, the second largest supermarket chain in North America, 2,300 supermarkets. And Solaris is headed up by Victor Manzanilla, who had a storied career at Procter & Gamble for 12 years before he came on at the helm of Solaris. So we think Solaris has the talent, has the technology, and has the mandate to produce the world's best low-sodium salt that is non-GMO, all-natural, kosher, and available right now for snack food companies to use in place of the traditional salt they're currently using. And again, last but absolutely not least is Guidant. Guidant is developing software and tools to improve the safety of autonomous vehicles. Most people know that autonomous vehicles are coming, and the ones that will come the soonest, in our view, are those autonomous land-based delivery drones, like small vehicles that will deliver groceries and pharmaceutical products, pizzas and other things from the stores directly to the consumer. And these land-based delivery devices, of course, do not have any drivers. They're totally automated. And in the state of Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis, a year and a half ago, passed a law requiring all autonomous vehicles, whether they're land-based delivery devices or passenger cars or others, if they want to operate on the roads in the state of Florida, they have to telemetrically hook up to a remote monitoring and control center. The only problem is there's no remote monitoring and control center in the state of Florida that they can do that with. So Guidant is building their first remote monitoring and control center in Boca Raton, Florida, as we speak. They've demonstrated the technology, which they have several patents on. Guidant has 7 patents in its portfolio. 6 of them relate to remote monitoring and control of autonomous vehicles. And Guidant's goal is to build a stable, durable center in Boca Raton that will have an agnostic interface that will allow vehicle manufacturers of all stripes and fleet operators of all types to hook up their vehicles so they can legally operate them in the state of Florida. Concomitant with what the state of Florida has done with requiring remote monitoring and control, other states are moving in the same direction. California recently passed a similar law, and other countries, in Germany, recently passed a law requiring remote monitoring and control for the operation of autonomous vehicles anywhere in Germany. So Germany is actually the first country to pass a nationwide law requiring remote monitoring and control. Guidant's business model is remote monitoring and control as a service. It's a SaaS model where people will be able to hook up their vehicles on either a monthly rate or a per delivery rate, depending upon the business model that's appropriate for their business. Guidant also has another technology which is quite remarkable for autonomous vehicles, and they're developing regenerative shock absorbers, which every time your car stops or goes forward or goes over a bump, it would actually generate some electricity to go back to help recharge the batteries. And Guidant has licensed this technology from the State University of New York, is developing prototypes, manufacturing prototypes as we speak, and hopefully they'll finish that and begin testing them by the end of the summer. And a number of companies have expressed an interest in evaluating these regenerative shock absorbers to help increase the range of electric vehicles. It's estimated that 4 of these shock absorbers in a vehicle traveling 60 miles an hour on a Class A road could improve the range of the vehicle by about 5 miles. We will see after the testing is done if that's accurate. What's really impressive about Guidant is their leadership team. Guidant is headed up by Harold Braun, who is a remarkably capable, experienced executive. Harold was previously the CEO of Siemens Nokia Network, which was one of the largest technology companies in the state of Florida. They had 4,000 employees. Joining Harold on the board is Johan Denischen, who is currently the COO of Volkswagen North America. And previously, Johan was the Executive Vice President of General Motors and the President of the Cadillac Car Company. And joining Harold and Johan is Daniel Grossman, who is one of the developers of Zipcar, which was subsequently sold to Avis Budget. And he was asked by General Motors to be the COO of Maven, which is their connectivity mobility business. And Daniel is incredibly knowledgeable about mobility businesses and using the SaaS model in the mobility network. So we think Guidant has a terrific leadership team for a company of any size, and this leadership team is complemented, in our view, by a very capable technology development company within the company that's developing the software and the electronics for remote monitoring and control at low latency. So that it is, in an overview, the 4 portfolio companies that we have built from a clean piece of paper. Again, we own the lion's share of Solaris, Guidant, and Lucid, and we own 15% of Bellaskira. And the company is performing well. We're profitable. To recap roughly, we have just north of $50 million in net assets and no debt. And we feel pretty bullish about the forthcoming milestones this year and beyond. Thank you very much, and I'm delighted to take any questions you may have.
Our first question, as the portfolio companies go on their own, is Tekcapital able to replace them with new companies to build?
Yes, absolutely. We have, to a certain extent, our finger on the pulse of university technology development writ large with the network that we have built when we first formed the company. And we're tracking a number of technologies for potential acquisition. But before we pull the trigger for our next technology acquisition to build our next portfolio company, we want to see some more meaningful progress from our existing portfolio companies.
You mentioned Bellaskira going public earlier, and it seems that their stock has done very well since the IPO. Can you disclose again how much of Bellaskira does Tekcapital own and what that translates to in U.S. dollars? Yeah,
absolutely. We own approximately 15% of the shares outstanding, which translates into 17.1 million shares, which converted into U.S. dollars at the current share price is just over $20 million. So we had, just by way of reference, we had Bellaskira on our books at the end of 2020 at $2 million. So there's been quite an uplift from the end of November 2020 to, in the 7-month intervening period. So we're very pleased with the performance of the Bellaskira stock, but more importantly, we're pleased with the company that they have developed such a useful device, in our view, that could possibly make a positive impact on many people's lives around the world.
Our next question, which of the portfolio companies do you anticipate being the next potential IPO candidate or potential acquisition?
It's difficult to say with certainty. I think from 30,000 feet, our goal is obviously to build these companies to the point where they not only stand on their own 2 feet, but become, fetching candidates for either trade sales, acquisitions, or flotations. So we're seeking to move in that direction for all of the companies in our portfolio. It's difficult to say which one will actually, achieve that exit first, but they are all, without overstatement, making good progress in our view.
Can you talk about Tekcapital's consulting business and how you work with other external companies?
Yeah, sure. Since we have built a large network, and we've also acquired a company a few years ago called Invention Evaluator, which uses a combination of machine learning and experts to assess the market potential of new intellectual properties that university faculty members and others may develop. So we sell that service to roughly 250 universities and research centers around the world, and they buy reports to assess the market potential of new invention disclosures by their faculty members, and they use those reports in part to determine which of those many inventions that they have, which they own the rights to, that they should focus on and invest in further, such as building a patent estate around them and marketing them. So what that does is it generates some revenue for us, which is meaningful, but what it does on a strategic basis is even more important, and we view it as a competitive advantage. It keeps us in close proximity to the university suppliers of the world. So if we see a technology that we want to acquire from one of those institutions, we feel it shortens the path and the time for acquisition of those technologies.
Can you walk us through your model? And I guess this is related to the last question. In your model, does the university receive a royalty from the tech transfer? And, how, when you're an investor in the company, do you participate in the portfolio as an investment? Do you participate in each of the portfolio companies?
Yeah. Most universities follow the same model for commercializing their technologies, and that is they seek to license them to external enterprises, and those licenses are usually structured as an upfront payment, neutralization of patent costs, and an ongoing royalty based on sales of the products that incorporate the technology in them. So without exception, almost all of the university licensed technologies follows that format. And when an investor invests in Tekcapital, they invest in Tekcapital, and Tekcapital owns varying percentages of these portfolio companies. So the investment doesn't drive down into individual portfolio companies, but rather subsumes the collective value of the portfolio companies. And our business model is, upon monetization of our portfolio companies, either through trade sales or strategic partnerships or flotations, we will have a special dividend to share a portion of those proceeds with our shareholders.
And our last question, how do you determine when a portfolio company is ready to spread its wings or become independent to Tekcapital?
It's more of an art than a science, in earnest, but it depends on the progress that the portfolio company is making, the traction of its technology and products in the marketplace, and also the interest of the marketplace in the case of potential strategic partners or buyers in owning those technology rights to give them a leg up in their particular business. So there's not a sort of a magic formula that I could outline to you, but all of these companies are they have something in common. They're facing markets that are in excess of $1 billion today. They have a competitive, in our view, and essential intellectual property. and they have capable management in our view. And so with those ingredients sort of in the mix, at some point they have to, become quite a bit larger for them to take full advantage of the market opportunity, and that can be done through raising significant amounts of external capital, such as in the flotation, or by being acquired by another enterprise that already has the muscle to commercialize those businesses and expand their reach. So I know it's a bit of a soft answer to a perfectly good question, but I think it's very close to accurate.
And I think that's all the time we have.
Well, thank you very much for the good questions, and thank you for the opportunity to share the Tekcapital story. And if you want to learn more about Tekcapital, you can visit our website. It has a pretty complete set of information on the businesses and, of course, the financial aspects of the business. It's tekcapital.com. We trade on the London Exchange on the small cap market on the AIM under the symbol TEK, TEK, and we cross-trade our shares on the OTCQB under the symbol TEKCF. Thank you again, and have a lovely afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, this does conclude the Tekcapital presentation. Thank you for joining us. You may now disconnect.